Did anybody expect me to like this?
Enough talk! I dream about fighting every night!
You've got a rage problem, right?
It's not a problem!
Can I shake it? Can I shake it? Can I shake it? Can I shake it?
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, the most recent franchise to be gang raped by Hollywood's bullshit. Let me put it this way, I'm not a childhood fan of the Ninja Turtles, I'm more of a recent fan. I got into it, well, probably around my teenage years, around middle school and early high school. Around the time Out of the Shadows came out is when I started actually watching this franchise. And I like a lot of the products they produce. A lot of the shows have been pretty good. Well, actually, most of the shows have been pretty good. Rise was kind of okay. I didn't really care for the fact that they tried to mimic Teen Titans Go. And then the movies have been kind of hit or miss. The first one's pretty good. The 2 and 3, not so much. I really like the animated TMNT. The Michael Bay reboot, they're not nearly as bad as people say. And Out of the Shadows is actually my favorite movie in the franchise. And then I reviewed Rise last year, and it was fine. There wasn't a ton to it, but it was a fine enough movie. So now we come to this, and I knew this was going to be bad as soon as I heard Seth Rogen was attached. And I even did a video on one of the trailers, and holy hell, the trailer was bad. Let me move my camera a little bit. That was a little off center. I know it's kind of tilted up, but there's nothing I can do about it. Actually, maybe. Yeah, it should fix it. Alright. Anyway, yeah, I knew this was going to be bad. The trailers looked awful. They weren't funny. They weren't interesting. The characters were obnoxious. And again, Seth Rogen's name attached usually means your movie's going to be trash. And yeah, I know this has been getting great reviews. People are going to tell me, look at the critic score, look at the audience score, look how much everybody's loving this. And to all the people telling me that, you can suck my dick. Because this is the same thing people tried to tell me with Across the Spider-Verse. So many people love this movie, you're not allowed to hate this movie. Well, spoiler, I hate the fucking movie. This movie is bad. Really fucking bad. And one of my biggest problems is that this franchise is essentially now has the same problem as the X-Men films, in that they're all essentially the same. The story's usually the same, the characters are always the same, the message is always the same, and that's a big problem with that. It's the same, and it basically just rips off the first X-Men movie. I saw another review that said the same thing, but they're right. It just kind of rips off the first X-Men movie. And then we get to the characters. Now, I know people are trying to say, oh, they finally casted teenagers in the teenage roles. Why do they sound like children then? They don't sound like 15-year-olds, they sound like 9-year-olds. And I know, because my voice has been the same since I was 15. So you're not going to be able to convince me that these actors, especially Donnie. Donnie's voice is incredibly high-pitched, and he's kind of irritating, and not just the voice acting, I mean the character in general, and we'll get back to that in a little bit, but he sounds like he's voiced by a goddamn 8-year-old. And then there's April, who they just completely butchered the character writing, and especially the design for her. I don't know why when they first see her, they're acting like April's hot, because the animators and the designers clearly tried to make her as far from hot as possible, so I don't understand the logic there. Splinter is a fucking joke in this movie. He doesn't do shit until near the end of the movie, and up to that point, he's a goddamn clown, so yeah, the characters have already been butchered. The villain is Superfly, who's essentially the son of Baxter Stockman. And why didn't they just make this Baxter Stockman? I don't really know. But not only does he not talk like a scientist, he talks like some stereotypical black guy you find on one of those freeform shows or whatever. He's not intimidating, he's not funny, and his plan is just stupid. It's to basically kill all the humans and then turn every animal into a mutant. You know, as much as people bitch about The Amazing Spider-Man, it seems like a lot of movies really want to rip off that movie's plot. Bebop and Rocksteady are in this movie, and they're not even villains. No, I'm serious. I remember a lot of people were so psyched about Bebop and Rocksteady being in this movie. They're technically the villains for one shitty fight scene, and then they join the heroes for the final battle. All the mutants do except for Superfly, and they also, and they seem to rip off their own movies quite a bit as well. Like, at near the end of the movie, the villain appears to be defeated, and then comes back as this much bigger version of himself, similar to Super Shredder from TMNT 2. Though I will give this movie credit, at least he has more than a minute of screen time and doesn't stupidly kill himself like Super Shredder, so there's that. And I'm so worried about what they're going to do with Shredder if this movie makes money. Because at the box office, it's not doing that great, but the toy sales are what's really going to push this movie. So, and not just from this movie, like legacy toys, like from the original movies or the original shows, those will contribute to this movie's box office, so if those continue to sell, it's going to get a sequel. They've already announced a sequel and a spin-off. I'm worried about what that spin-off is going to be. The notable characters missing, like I said, are Shredder, and Casey Jones is missing as well. Although I can kind of be glad about that. I'm just so scared of what they're going to do to those two characters in the sequel, because I know they'll be there. And like I said, they're ripping off their other movies. The plan of this one, like, government agency that has barely any screen time in this movie, you could have cut and not missed a thing, except for, like, the opening scene, which creates the villain and the heroes. You cut them out the rest of the movie, you don't miss anything. They're on screen for about 5 minutes, and they get taken out pretty easily. And they rip off the 2014 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles by their plan involving draining the turtles of their blood. It's for a different purpose, but it's borderline the same thing. The animation for this movie is really bad. They try to emulate Into the Spider-Verse and Puss in Boots: The Last Wish by having the same, not exactly the same style, but they do it where the animation constantly skips frames. And it can be done well, but this movie's animation style is hideous to look at. I hate these designs. I hate this animation. It looks so fucking cheap. And you can have a low-budget animated movie and still have it look really good. Minions: The Rise of Gru, which came out last year, had some really good animation off a budget of like $75 million. I think this movie had a very similar budget, but this animation is ugly. I hate how it looks. And there's even some, like, basic errors in this movie, like the opening scene where the guy tells them, like, their guns are supposed to revert the mutants back to normal, I think. And then once they get in, the guy says, "Hold your fire, we need to take them alive." Those guns don't kill, if I heard you correctly, about 30 seconds ago, so whatever. The humor mostly consists of just the turtles talking over each other, and it's about as annoying as it sounds. There aren't jokes. It's like the opposite problem of Thor: Love and Thunder, where Thor: Love and Thunder is just one person talking and talking and talking. This one, it's just the four turtles talking over each other, and I can't even understand what they're saying. And that's like 90% of the comedy, and none of the comedy is very funny to begin with. The fight scenes are not particularly enticing. There's one action montage that has a really shitty music choice, and it's just odd. The van fight is just utterly preposterous, because it has a lot of stupid moments, too. Like, there's a point where Leo, like, charges Superfly inside their van. He gets his sword stuck in the top of the van. Leader of the Ninja Turtles, everybody. I know Leo's usually, like, unlikable, but I didn't realize he was an idiot. And that's another thing, all the turtles in this movie are idiots, including Donnie. Like, he's supposed to be the smart one, but I think he might be the dumbest of the bunch. And like I said, the villain is just a joke. He does they take him out so easily, both times. Even when he gets big, the only reason it takes them as long as it does to defeat him is because they sit around moping for another 5 minutes before getting anything done. After that, it takes them all of like 2 minutes to defeat him, and it's the equivalent of just throwing something down a hole. It's that simple, and and one of my biggest problems with this is that they officially become members of society at the end. Like, people accept the mutants at the end. And that's a good idea for a later movie. The entire point, one of the appeals of the Ninja Turtles is that they hide in the shadows. Hell, one of the movies, and even a video game before that, was called Out of the Shadows, but even still, they weren't entirely out of the shadows. The only people who knew them in the movie was this one government agency. and again, having them become members of society is a good idea for maybe a third movie, like maybe finish a trilogy that way. But finishing off the first movie is like killing off Superman in the second movie of your franchise. Oh, wait. You see where I'm going with this. This was not an entertaining movie. I don't understand what people are seeing in this movie. It's not funny. It's not interesting. It's not engaging. The action sequences are not fun to watch. It's just a chore. It's a short hour and a half. It's like an hour 40, I think, including credits. So thankfully it didn't kill too much of my time. But, oh my god, this was such a slog to sit through. I hate this movie so much. I mean, I'm trying to think if there was anything redeemable. And I really got nothing. It's just a whole lot of nothing. I don't want to ever think about this movie again. I hope a sequel does not get made. I'm giving Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem a D-. The only reason I didn't give this an F is because, I don't know, at least it had some decent voice acting. I don't know, I'm running out of... I have nothing else to say about this movie. I'm done. I'll see y'all next time. Bye.